You think the magic starts at 90 days, but the truth is, the shift begins immediately. On day 1, you are no longer a slave. You feel the withdrawal, the twitch of your hand, the muscle memory trying to reclaim control, but you say no. And that no, that refusal, is the first seed of greatness being planted, because every man who ever accomplished anything of worth began by telling himself the truth, that he had given too much away to things that gave him nothing in return. NoFap is not just about abstaining from porn. It's about reclaiming your edge, your essence, your aggression, your primal vitality that was dulled by a screen. Let me tell you what happens in those first 7 days and why they are everything. You wake up and you don't reach for your phone. You don't go straight to the dark scroll, to the endless supply of artificial stimulation. You sit there in the silence, and for the first time in years, you feel the quiet. You feel your breath. You feel your body. Your heart beats stronger. Your eyes open wider. Your instincts begin to return. And so does your rage. Not destructive rage, but the ancient fire that's been buried under dopamine debris. You start noticing things. The way women walk, the way your voice sounds, the way your spine straightens when you say no to yourself. Your posture changes without trying. You're standing taller, not because you're proud, but because your body remembers how to carry itself without shame. The shame begins to dissolve, not all at once, but the weight you've carried, that invisible cloak of guilt, begins to fall off your shoulders. You walk differently. You speak less. But when you do, you speak with intention. There's an edge in your tone, a gravity that wasn't there before, because you're no longer empty. You're no longer drained. You're no longer the man who gives his power away for a few seconds of digital release, and that subtle difference, that tiny shift in energy, is noticed by everyone. You go out, and women start glancing at you, not because of your looks, but because of your energy. You're holding something inside, and they can feel it. You're no longer leaking life, you're building pressure. And pressure creates presence. You're more alert. You see more, colors feel richer. Music feels deeper. Your emotions are no longer numbed by constant release. You laugh more genuinely. You get angry more truthfully. You cry without apology. You feel human again, exposed, but alive. In those early days, you rediscover your rituals. Cold showers sting more, but they also wake something up. Push-ups burn more, but they remind you what it means to resist. You stop chasing ease and start craving difficulty, because now you want to earn your peace, not download it, not stream it, not scroll to it. You start enjoying the hunger, because the hunger is a sign that your desire is returning to its rightful place. You're no longer spilling it, you're channeling it. Into your words, into your work, into your stare, into your silence. And people around you start to notice. They may not know what changed, but they feel something. They feel your gravity, your restraint, your refusal to bow to comfort. You start moving with less hesitation. You speak more slowly, not because you're unsure, but because your words now cost you energy. And you don't waste what is sacred. Your dopamine begins to recalibrate. You no longer crave fast pleasure, because your nervous system is learning to breathe again, to be at peace in the pause, to find joy in the journey, not the climax. And this affects everything. Your discipline sharpens. You're not reaching for sugar or social media or meaningless texts at 2 a.m. You start to build a life, not just escape one. You sleep deeper, not just because you're tired, but because your body isn't battling itself anymore. There's no internal war between the beast and the boy. You've made a choice, and that clarity becomes peace. You begin to dream again. Literally, your REM sleep deepens. Your dreams become vivid, symbolic, because now the subconscious has room to speak. You are no longer drowning it with lust. Your thoughts become sharper, your logic clearer, your decisions bolder, because your brain is no longer short-circuited by overstimulation. You start creating instead of consuming. You read more. You write more. You build more. You speak less, but say more. You start living like a man again, not an addict, not a drone, not a beggar on his knees before pixels. You begin to remember who you were before the quick fix, before the illusion of abundance ruined your ability to love. Because the real truth is, most men aren't addicted to porn. They're addicted to escaping responsibility, escaping the mountain, escaping the call to become someone greater. But in these first 7 days, you stop escaping and you start ascending. You start seeing women not as objects, but as oracles, as tests, as reflections of the power you carry or the power you've lost. You don't chase, you attract, not by lines, not by games, but by your presence and your restraint. Because every day you hold the line, you become less reactive and more intentional. You stop being a puppet and start becoming a king. And don't beg, don't scroll, don't break over a screen. They sit in the fire, they face the mirror, they bleed in silence until they are reborn in strength. This is what happens in the first 7 days of NoFap, not after 30, not after 90, but now. The moment you choose yourself over pleasure, the moment you resist that impulse, you begin the journey back to your throne, to your fire, to your untamed self. It's not about perfection, it's about the return, the reawakening, the resurrection of the man within. So hold the line, don't flinch, don't fold. This is your fight, and in the early hours, the first few days, you either rise or remain fallen. You've already fallen before. Now it's time to climb. And every second you resist, you rise. Every breath you hold in, you sharpen. Every moment you suffer, you become sovereign. This is your beginning. Let the weak fall. Let the soft scroll. But not you, not today, not anymore. Now you rise. And if you hold the line past the first 7, you enter a new realm, where the war shifts from physical to spiritual. The urges don't vanish. They evolve. They come disguised, not as lust, but as boredom, as loneliness, as restlessness, as that subtle whisper, just one more time. But you've already seen behind the curtain. You've tasted the power of restraint. And now, you know what waits on the other side. Not shame, not guilt, but clarity, pride, strength. You start to speak differently. You notice your voice carries more bass, not because your throat changed, but because your spirit did. You walk into rooms with a heaviness. People make way for you, not because you're aggressive, but because you are present. You're not distracted anymore. You're not empty. You're not drained. You are full of intention, full of energy, full of you. And the world notices. The women glance longer. The men listen more closely. The universe begins to bend to the will of a man no longer seduced by his lowest appetite. Because your hunger is now your weapon, and your discipline is the sheath. Day 8 hits differently. The fog you lived in begins to clear. You remember details better. You think faster. You don't stutter anymore. Not because your mind is perfect, but as your soul is aligned, you look people in the eye. You don't avoid mirrors. You don't flinch at yourself, because now you are becoming the man you were afraid to be. Day 10, your workouts hit harder. Your sleep gets deeper. You no longer need a phone to fall asleep. You no longer need validation from strangers, because you found something deeper than attention. You found integrity, the kind that whispers, I didn't cave today. I kept my promise to myself. I showed up, even when no one clapped for me. And let me tell you this, that feeling, that inner congruence, is more addictive than any orgasm. You no longer chase intensity, you crave depth. You crave the slow burn, the long game, the path of kings, not clowns. By day 12, you start noticing your thoughts like a hawk. You see the patterns, the traps, the old scripts, and you choose not to follow them. You breathe deeper, you talk less, you listen more. Because power does not shout, it radiates. Radiating now by day 14, 4 weeks without the poison. And you are no longer the same man. Your skin is clearer, your jaw more defined, your eyes wider, focused, piercing. The dark circles begin to fade. The guilt no longer haunts you. Your body no longer flinches at temptation, because you've tasted a better pleasure. The pleasure of control, of sovereignty, of stillness. You realize now that self-control is not repression. It is revelation. You are not hiding your desire. You are harnessing it, not to run away, but to rise, to build, to command. You want more from life now. You want money with meaning, love with loyalty, work with depth, sex with soul. Because you are done being cheap, done being disposable, done being a boy playing with pixels. You want the real. You want the raw. You want the sacred, and the only way to deserve it is to become it. That is what NoFap is, not just a practice, but a path, a ritual of resistance, a rite of passage, a return to the throne of your own mind. So keep going, let the urges come. Let them scream, let them beg. You're stronger now. You've walked through fire, and you're still standing. Because in a world of weakness, you chose to endure, and now the world opens to you. Because you are becoming the one thing it cannot ignore. A man who has mastered himself. And that is the rarest power of all. Subscribe to TrueAvalon.